Good morning. This is Tim. It's great to be with you for our walk through the Bible. This year, our reading for this morning is from Genesis 34, 35, and 36. It continues the story of Jacob. He's on the way back to his homeland where Israel is still located today, as a matter of fact. And chapter 35, apparently there was a pause that they were taking as a group, and in chapter 35, God told Jacob, it's time to go back to Bethel. When Jacob left home over 20 years before this, he left afraid. He left broke. He had nothing but his staff. He had no money. Esau, his brother, was determined to kill him, and he left home to save his life and to go back to his family members in Syria. But he stopped at this particular place and had a vision of God in heaven, angels ascending and descending, and he appealed to God, bless me, and I'll come back to this spot and worship you here, create an altar, present a tithe. So from the very beginning, the plan of Jacob was not to be in another location for 20 years. I don't think even that much, but to be there until his brother cooled off and he could come back home. But it had been many more years than he expected, and now he's coming back. He has a large family, he has servants, and he has cattle. He's rich, and God said, "No, it's time. You've stopped here for a while." We have the terrible story in chapter 34 where his sons murdered every male in a village called Shechem. And by the way, one of the things about the Bible that is so compelling is the fact that these stories are real. The heroes are not always heroes, and they have their flaws and their sins, and the Bible doesn't sugarcoat that. But Jacob announces to his family, "We're going back to Bethel, the house of God. But before we make the last part of this trip, we need to do three things. Number one, get rid of all your idols. Number two, be clean." I think he was telling them to clean yourself up. Number three, change your clothes. So, three commands, three good points for a sermon, which you're not going to get today because I try to keep these short. But I just want to share with you a few thoughts about his first order. Get rid of all of your idols. Other than Rachel, I don't know how many family members or servants left the land of Syria with idols, but some apparently did. And idols don't belong in the presence of God. When you're going to the house of God, get rid of those things. So that was the first thing. Of course, idols at that time they were probably small idols, and could be wood carvings or even stone chiselings depicted what cows or frogs or whatever it is, and they would worship these things. But to get rid of those, of course, we don't have those today, do we? But we do have idols, and I'll explain that in a minute. But probably a lot of the people there in that time would look at Jacob and say, "Jacob, it doesn't make any sense. You're worshiping a God you can't even see. I mean, how do you even know there's anybody there when you make an altar and when you pray? At least I've got this piece of stone or this piece of wood. I can bow down before it and say, yeah, this is my God. But it makes no sense to have a God you can't see." Well, actually, Jesus said this is the way it's supposed to be. You see, the opposite of idolatry is not worshiping nothing, but it's what Jesus said. We worship God in spirit and in truth, and God is looking for people like that to worship Him. And that's what Jacob was doing, and that's what we do today as Christians. Now, you may know people, probably the majority of people in our country would not have a block of wood that they worship or a statue. Some do, certainly, but the great majority would say Doesn't make any sense. You're worshiping a God you can't even see. How do you know he's there? You just say you take it by faith. We worship what we can see. They may not use that terminology, but that's really what they're saying. I know people who worship money. I've had people tell me, maybe you have had people tell you that too, that, I don't have one single problem that couldn't be solved if I just had more money. But what they're doing is worshiping their money. It's like they're bowing down before their wallet and saying, "Oh, money, save me." But the truth is, your money is not going to save you. Your money is not going to solve all of your problems. There's so many people today who would say, "No, I'm not going to worship a God who can't even see. How do we even know He's there?" I believe in science, and they're really putting their faith in science. That's what the bottom line is. But that doesn't solve all of your problems. That doesn't answer all the questions either. If you're thinking to yourself, this whole universe, it was blown up 13.6 billion years ago, and this tiny pinpoint of supermatter exploded. Science can't explain that. If that's really the way it happened, if that's what you want to believe, I don't think it was. But you think that's how it happened? What about the day before the Big Bang, or even 1 second before it took place? Science has nothing to say about the day before, what it was like, what there was, what may have caused this explosion to take place. We look forward in our lives and we think, what happens after this life is over? Science has nothing to say about it, realistically speaking, but the Bible does. The Bible explains the beginning, the origins. It explains the end of planet Earth when God makes something brand new. And beyond that, into eternity. The Bible explains all of those things. And yes, we believe them by faith, but it's a reasonable faith. It's a faith that passed the step of the passage of time as we see prophecies fulfilled. Put away your idols, my friend. Worship the one true God in spirit and in truth. And I'll leave you with that today. Think about it. Our reading for tomorrow is also in Genesis 37, 38, and 39. Looking forward to it. I'll see you then. Have a great day, everybody.